Magic 97, Maroon 5, and Love Somebody. Ryan Switzer, Magic 97 Morning Show. For the first time in a while, Current Mayor Jerrod Schafer joining us. I know you've been busy over the last little bit. It's good having you here, man.
Yeah, just, boy, everything you see in the media these days about mayors, I've been hiding under a rock a little bit, Ryan.
Well, yeah, hopefully you're on Santa's nice list this year. And let's talk about that. I know there's local Current business that we're going to get to in just a moment. Yeah. But Rob Ford, what's your take on that? I don't know where one even begins asking questions about it. You know what?
I'm almost speechless. Like, it's hard to fathom, to be quite honest. Like, a lot of the antics that, and footage of that council meeting, I can't imagine that. And I just can't imagine the dynamic and everything that goes on. And, part of that, obviously, is I can't imagine the dynamic of running a municipality the size of Toronto and all that sort of stuff. But it's been absolutely crazy what a train wreck it's been and how it's captivated, not only Canada, but the U.S. and everything like that. So it's been unbelievable, to say the least.
Do you think that there's some sort of method to his madness?
No, I don't. I think it's...
You think he's just this big, dumb Chris Farley guy who really doesn't know any better?
I would have to say I think the man's obviously got issues, whether it be with addiction or something like that. And, in the end, when you're talking about, he just wants to be an average guy. He doesn't consider himself the mayor. And we were talking about that. I don't actually even have that luxury in Swift Current. In Swift Current, 17,000 people, right? So to quantify that into a city the size of Toronto, you obviously don't get that luxury of just being an average everyday person. You're under a microscope and people judge everything that you do. So, I don't know. I think he's caught. I think he needs help, and man, I hope he gets some.
Yeah, well, I know in Swift Current, in your term, hopefully the only thing you've smoked since being elected to office is salmon or some sort of meat for a sandwich. So
I feel pretty clean cut these days, actually.
Well, hey, that's good to know. Civic biz right now. Let's talk about a real Swift Current scandal. Yeah. Snow removal. It's snowing. The snow is on the streets, and has the phone started ringing yet with snow removal queries and such?
It hasn't too bad. Obviously, I think more than anything, snow removal hasn't been the issue as much as just being slippery, right? Temperature and snow coming down and everything like that. And we've talked a lot in the past about we have a goal of trying to deliver better service, and we're going to do that, and we're going to work very hard. But the biggest challenge with snow removal, Ryan, is expectations of your community. The number one challenge that we always have is obviously you hear that snow removal is done so much better in other communities, and the major challenge that we're up against is we're compared to how people deal with their own personal property. So we've talked about that a little bit. If a snowstorm starts on Friday morning and doesn't end until Saturday sometime, there's an individual that can shovel their sidewalk for their particular home 16 times because that, they shovel it, go back in, and an hour later they come back out and take that skiff off. And as a city, we don't have the luxury of cleaning out the downtown core in 15 minutes and then coming back 2 hours later and re-cleaning it out again. The equipment's so big, it's so time consuming to do it. And, the other big part of it is the snow actually gets removed. So it's taken away in dump trucks and things like that. And, I know people are sometimes frustrated, but I look at the city of Regina. I think if somebody got up in the morning and they had to try and maneuver out of a 3-foot snowbank because a plow would just come down and block them in on their side of the street, they'd be angry about that. So expectations are always a challenge with snow removal. We're going to do what we can for increased service, but it's always a fun topic in the winter.
Not a lot of snow in the forecast, so hey, maybe it just won't snow.
Well, you know what? It's I hope it doesn't for our sake and for everybody's sake. But that's one of the other challenges that you've got is that after a winter like last year, we could go and buy plows and graders and hire staff and be prepared for a winter like we had last year. And if we have a mild winter, that's a lot of money you've tied up there doing nothing.
True. So Grey Cup, of course, was this past Sunday.
Yeah.
What'd you do for that?
Pretty low-key, actually. Kelly got back from the Canadian Mixed in Ottawa on Sunday. My son had a hockey game that day, so we had to make sure everybody got home and was organized, and just three of us sat and watched the game quietly.
Kelly, part of the Meacham rink that went to Ottawa.
Yeah,
how'd they do?
They did really good, actually. They finished, I think, either tied for first or second after the round robin, and they lost a tough one in the semifinal. But so they got third in Canadian National Mixed Curling, and they did represented our province pretty well.
What does Kelly think about Ron Burgundy being hired to be a correspondent at the Roar of the Rings?
She thinks it's pretty cool, actually. You know what? Who doesn't? I mean, that's pretty awesome that Ron Burgundy's going to be all the way up here in Canada and announcing curling. That, you know what, I'll tell you, you can always tell when there's a major curling event on, because certainly at work or everybody you talk to is talking about what happened, and so there'll be a lot of people tuning in. I think it's going to be hilarious.
You can always tell when there is, because when you walk around different establishments, the TV always just has the rings on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It always jumps out. Anyway, Jerrod, I know that you're kind of a big deal and have other radio appearances to make, so we'll end it there. Thanks a bunch, eh?
Thanks, Ryan.